Hello folks, a warm welcome from an organist who is almost too cold to speak. Today I'm in the village of Chettle. That's a funny name, isn't it? It rhymes with kettle. Cauldron. A basin surrounded by hills. And boy, could I do with a kettle right now. I'm absolutely freezing. I'm heading towards St. Mary's Church to try out a newly restored organ. And I'm so pleased that you can join me. Oh, the cute small one. Hello. Where was I? We're just passing Chettle House, the grand English Baroque mansion, which is attributed to Thomas Archer, the same architect of Hale House, which I visited back in the summer. It feels like an eternity ago now. And onwards towards the church. There's a little bit of wind coming through the camera at the moment. That's because I have to use the iPhone today. This is the only weather-sealed piece of equipment that I have. I don't fancy losing all of my footage because of the wet weather. So I hope you can see okay, and more importantly, I hope you can hear okay. And look at this beautifully picturesque side entrance to St. Mary's Church. I'm feeling positively drenched now, and I can hardly feel my fingers. So I'm taking refuge in this lovely little hut on the crossroads to the church. St. Mary's is actually relatively modern compared with most of the buildings which I visit. This was almost entirely built in the 1850s. The only part which is older, dating back to the 16th century, is the tower. All around I can hear the sounds of farm machinery in the distance. Of course, the mooing of the cows and distant gunshots. This is almost a quintessential English village. I don't expect to find much more warmth inside the church, but let's give it a go. Before we go any further, I just have to draw your attention to this ancient yew tree, hollowed out in the trunk. These have been a symbol of religion since pagan times, and they're so common in English village churchyards. They symbolise life from their incredible longevity, but also death, perhaps because of their poisonous berries. I wonder how old this one is. And as we advance towards the entrance, we come face to face with the monumental site of Chettle House. It's unbelievable to think that in the 1840s, that building was a ruin in many ways. In fact, I think it was used as a grain store. A new owner took it over and completely renovated it, and the same chap was responsible for this church renovation here. Closing the door on the sleet and the wind, and finding complete peace inside this church. Instantly you can see that this is a Victorian renovation. Look how orderly everything is here. I do love Victorian stained glass. It can be so vivid yet so simple. I have to ask a question of the bell ringers at this point. The bells in this church were cast in 1350 in Salisbury, so they're very ancient. But they aren't rung from ropes, they're rung from levers. Bell ringers out there, is that common? Rare? I must admit it's not an area of expertise of mine. For the first time in a long while, my hands are almost too cold to hold the phone steady. So I think for the benefit of all of us, why don't we investigate the church organ? This, my friends, is a delightful and, may I say, eccentric looking machine. I've never seen anything like this before. I'm not sure how I characterize this organ because it has a pedal board, one keyboard? It has two keyboards. Where's the second? Ah, there we go, the old organist trick. Yeah, the second keyboard is played with the feet. No, there are three keyboards. Ha ha ha. Have we ever seen this before? You were not expecting that. An organ with a folding out keyboard. So the great organ, the main division of the organ, great, that's what it means, it folds out. Why would that be? What reason would there possibly be for a keyboard needing to fold out and then fold away again? For storage? I don't think so. To make it easier to sit down? Maybe. So that you don't have it in the way if you don't need it? Possibly. Any ideas? I've never seen anything like it. Ever. And that's just the beginning. I mentioned that the main or largest division of a church organ is called the grate. The one above it is called the swell. That's because the top keyboard has its pipes inside a box. When you open the swell box, it lets the lions out of the cage. So we have grate at the bottom and swell at the top, except we don't. These manuals are not called grate and swell, they're called choir and solo. Right, okay. Normally on a cathedral organ you'd have, say, 4 keyboards. The main keyboard, grate. Second one, swell. but you'd also have the choir and solo that this has. But this organ only has a choir and a solo. The choir and solo are subsidiary to grate and swell. So an organ which only has choir and solo is very strange indeed. What does this suggest to me, as somebody who's only seen this for a few minutes? It suggests that it's a portion of a much larger instrument which has been taken away and made into its own organ. The solo manual in a cathedral is the one at the very top. It's used for just that, for solos, to bring out the tune. And the choir would traditionally be used to accompany a choir. It would be a smaller division on the organ, perhaps behind the organist's head. So a strange setup here at St. Mary's. I think I'm going to have to crack open a coffee and have a think about this. Peculiar. Interesting, but peculiar. I thought we'd reached the end of the eccentricities of this organ, but I can see another one, just looking up there. So these front pipes, those are dummies. That's fairly common. It makes the organ look much nicer, and this one does look very, very beautiful. But behind those dummy pipes, you can see the shutters of the swell box. I mentioned to you that only half of the organ was inside a swell box, didn't I? However, it looks like the entire instrument here is enclosed within the swell box. So you can vary the volume of the whole organ, not just the upper manual, using the swell pedal. And if we look down at the bottom here, by the pedal board, you can see that swell pedal. That's actually a ratchet swell, rather than a balanced swell. These are fairly common in village churches. That action of the foot opens and closes the box. And to the left we can see some combination pedals. They allow you to change the stops with your feet. And here next to them is a very small straight pedal board. It'll be interesting to see how this organ sounds. This is not some new form of sound art, or me tapping out Morse code. This is the sound of an organist's worst nightmare. Problem. I talk a lot about problems with organs on this channel, but at least you know it's authentic. There's not really much I can do about a cipher. It's a sticking note. We've seen them on previous videos. They're particularly bad in winter, actually. It's a good way of ruining a good organ. The best an organist like me can do is to physically take the pipe out, and I certainly wasn't going to be doing that today. Instead, I decided to phone a friend. This is someone I've known for a long time, actually. He's a very good friend. We're almost like brothers. In fact, we are brothers. This is Billy, who's got me out of trouble on a couple of occasions in the past. I managed to convince him to put my old harmonium in the back of his Citroen, as well as his classical guitar, and drive out to Chettle in the snow, which he did, and we brought the harmonium into the church and unfolded it. If you've not come across this instrument before on my channel, it's been an absolute blessing. It folds down to almost nothing, and it's absolutely fantastic. But we've never played it with the acoustic guitar before. And here is our first Frosty duet. An Icy Duet from The Four Seasons by Antonio Vivaldi. We had one take to record that piece in while we could still feel our fingers. Fortunately for Billy though, he was wearing a hand-weaved scarf. This is his other pursuit. He's built his own loom, which is as complex as the innards of a church organ, it seems. The family's Christmas presents are all sorted. As well as filming this video this week, I've been doing my usual rounds around Dorset, looking for inspiration and churches to visit during Advent and beyond. If you'd like to see some of those previews, you can sign up to my Patreon, which is a way of seeing exclusive content from the Salisbury Organist. But if you'd like to help support me personally in the best way, I always recommend PayPal. It's a bit confusing because Patreon and PayPal kind of sound the same, but they're very different actually. Because if you'd like to make a donation to help support my work, which is never funded by any organisation or any church, then PayPal is really the best route because that donation goes directly to me, whereas Patreon, a portion of the funds that you give are sent over to Patreon. As far as PayPal is concerned, there's a link underneath this video where you can go to my PayPal page to support me with a small donation, and I would be so grateful because it's instrumental in helping me film these trips for you. If you prefer to send a cheque, just head to my website benmaytonmusic.co.uk and there you'll find the address. Thank you so much, it really helps and keeps me on the road and filming. For now, we haven't reached Advent yet at the time of filming this video. We certainly haven't reached Christmas. But in Chettle this week, it felt like Christmas, and I'm not sure we'll get that kind of level of snowfall again this year. Who knows? But I'd like to end with something which will carry us through all the way through December, because I'd love this video to be enjoyed during that month as well as this one. So until next time, here, my friends, is a foretaste of Christmas. Goodbye for now.